Good evening. My name is Brent Baldwin, and I'm the Artistic Director of Panoramic Voices. Tonight, you're going to hear a number of new works, contemporary works, three of which we, Panoramic Voices, premiered in our final live season before COVID made different plans for everybody, and one new work that you'll be hearing for the very first time. Contemporary music is something that's been near and dear to my heart ever since I began composing music and writing songs as a teenager, as I went through college, when I moved to Austin in the mid-90s and began conducting instrumental and choral works here in this fair city. And certainly it's been a big focus during my 14 years as Artistic Director of Panoramic Voices. So, taking us back a little bit, and just to set the scene for the very first piece that we have coming up, it was Valentine's Day, 2020, and we had just been given this gorgeous, lush new work, and we were singing it. Panoramic Voices sang its heart out, and the orchestra played its heart out. Katrina Saporsantos, soloist, you will hear, sang her heart out. And unbeknownst to most of us, we were going to be, facing a pandemic and a worldwide shutdown. So, I was planning to go on and conduct a bunch of pieces in the spring, and this piece that you're about to see is the very last piece that I conducted prior to the COVID shutdown and that Panoramic Voices did live. So, what a piece to go out on, though. This is just a gorgeously lush piece by Carlos Cordero. It's called Forgiveness. Please enjoy. trying to keep it slack, but so. And that was Forgiveness by Carlos Cordero, featuring soprano Katrina Saporsantos, Panoramic Voices, chorus and orchestra, recorded live in February 2020, just before COVID did what it did. I'm so happy to share that with you here tonight. And I'd like to present to you a very special treat. We're going to bring in Carlos, and we're going to talk a little bit about it. Carlos, how are you?
Hello, Brent. Really great. And you?
Oh, fantastic. It's always so great to see you. It's been so long since we've seen each other in person, but I'll take on-screen Carlos over no Carlos at all. Thank you so much for being here.
It is amazing. Thank you so much for putting this together.
Oh, you're so welcome. And thank you for that brilliant piece. It was such an honor to get to perform that and get to kind of go through the process of, when you and I first started talking in 2019, let's do a piece, and what is it going to be, and just how it morphed and grew into this lush just keeps coming back at me. That's something an adjective that I tend to associate with so much of the music that you've written. I'm just such a huge fan, and I'm so thankful.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And
so, yeah. Oh, please go ahead.
No, thank you so much to Panoramic Voices for making this happen. It's amazing. I always say that pieces are born of collaboration, and this was such a beautiful collaboration, both because we were 3 organizations coming together. It was just beautiful to create this piece.
Oh man, well, thank you. I'm just curious. We don't have a ton of time for these in between bits because we have a lot of music we want to be sharing. But I would love to just kind of, talk. You and I talked through this process, but there's a lot I didn't know because I was also prepping the opera that went immediately after it. So, what was your inspiration behind this? If you can remember that far back.
Yeah, for sure. Since we were working with SIMS organization, and I was reading their website, I was reading, what is it that ties us together other than we are musicians, right? Other than what is it that where do we meet, right? And it was beautiful to find that also as musicians, we struggle sometimes with our careers, with our relationships, with our everyday, and that takes a bit of time to either forgive ourselves, forgive others. These are just things that we go through. And this was a text that I wrote before this piece. But when I started to think about, okay, what is this piece going to look like? What do I want to say right now? We had a brainstorm, and we knew what is it kind of the theme. And when I remember that I had this text, I remember, and I think listening right now is so important, because after this year, it is a challenge still, right, to find the place to forgive ourselves for this pause that we have to do in our careers, to find the time to love ourselves, to hear what we have to say, and step back and rest. All these things. I just remember when I was going to write this piece, I remember, this is something so personal, so vulnerable, because I feel that even though we might not say it, we all struggle with forgiveness and learning that, self-love and loving others, either because something happened or because things in life, don't match, and there are misunderstandings. But it was powerful for me to find that vulnerability, and then for us to work and create this performance. It felt exactly what we wanted to say, and that was so rewarding.
Oh, wow. Well, you did it so wonderfully well, and I'm so thankful for that. I don't know if it had anything to do with, if this piece, if it hadn't fallen on Valentine's Day, if you would have written the same piece, it just kind of, in my mind, whether that was on purpose or not, and I'm generally curious, I'll have you answer that in a second. But, I just remember experiencing that performance, and just, it kind of, like we were doing Dido, we were doing this tragic opera as part of this performance as well. And it was on Valentine's Day. And this piece just kind of like melded in there. It wasn't like a in your face, I love you kind of thing. It was so much more deep than that, and so much more intricate. So was that just kind of a happenstance, coincidence element?
It was. I just remembered that it was on Valentine's. It's interesting because we always try to think on that date of happy and the beautiful, bubbly, exciting feelings, and we also have those nuances of. In fact, that's probably why the piece ends like that. Of it's not major, it's not minor. It's a question that continues because we're still figuring out and the journey of trying to understand that same journey, as redundant as it might sound, but it was a coincidence, I have to say. I was more focused on that everyday journey that we go as musicians in our career with our art making to learn to allow ourselves to be.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. Before we move on to the next piece, what's going on in Carlos's world? What do you have coming up next?
I'm working hard and trying to find ways to be a new choral music advocate. This is something new that I'm exploring, and I really love it because I feel that my career as a composer is not just writing music. I love people who are able to do that and concentrate on that. I feel that my voice as a composer is both writing but also advocating for those who write music, new choral music, and I'm excited to go through a journey. So there will be more of that in the future.
Oh, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for being here tonight, Carlos. We'll see you again in a little bit, but we're going to keep the program moving along, share some more new music. So thank you, Carlos. And yeah, I've had the privilege of working with so many gifted composers like Carlos, and I just consider myself such a lucky person for it. A few years back, I was asked by my friend Graham Reynolds and his organization, Golden Hornet, to mentor some composers, or would I be open to mentoring them in this young composer program? And I said, well, sure, I'd love that. So I went ahead and started working with a number of composers, and one of them was this young teenage composer. I got to work with him a couple of times, and in 2019, I decided, you know what, you should be. It's great you're writing for Golden Hornet, but I'd love for you to write for Panoramic Voices. So we made that happen. Mack and I got together over coffee a number of times and just worked through the stuff. And when Steve Parker, a brilliant composer in his own right, reached out and asked Panoramic Voices to be part of one of his SoundSpace series installations that happens at the Blanton Museum of Art here in Austin, I thought, well, here we go. This is a series. I should preface this with a little bit of a caveat. This is, if you go to a SoundSpace production here at the Blanton in Austin, there are dozens of concurrent performances happening in all these different galleries. So what it is just a bustle of art, and it's acting, it's music, it's everything you could imagine. And of course, within the bustle comes a whole bunch of rustle. You'll hear some footsteps. You'll see people walking through the frame. It's a very much a live experience, and not so much a sit down and listen to a concert experience. So anyway, with that context all put together, I just would love to share with you. This is the world premiere of Mack Hoxie's Mythos, as performed at the Blanton Museum of Art in September 2019. Please enjoy. and that was Mythos by Mack Hoxie, featuring Lindsay Pino, Gabrielle Cohen, Bethany Ammon, and of course the inimitable Katrina Saporsantos once again. And I could talk all about this piece, but that would be kind of silly because we've got the composer right here. Mack, welcome.
Hello, thank you.
So good to see you. It's been a while since we've got to meet up in person. I'm so glad you could join us here tonight. When we were working together in those Golden Hornet project pieces that you were writing, I remember, we were working with relatively conventional notation systems and whatnot. And I remember when I approached you with this one, I kind of threw out, hey, let's just try something different. It's not like we're going to change what you do, but just like, let's try on a new hat and see how it feels. Is that kind of your recollection? It's been a while.
I do remember you approaching me. You said, how about a choral piece? And I was like, that is certainly a take that I had not considered before, but obviously it worked out. So
yeah, this was your first choral piece.
It was, yes.
Okay. Oh, wow. Well, I knew this a couple of years ago, and of course, memory being what it is. So, wow. What an honor for Panoramic Voices for us to have gotten to share in that journey with you. I'm curious, just kind of what may have been going through your mind, like approaching this new idiom. You were already a gifted composer. You've been writing music for a number of years at this point. And at a way younger age than I think I began writing music, and admittedly way better than I was writing music at the age when I met you as well. What was your approach? What were you thinking? What were some inspirations on the text? Just give us a little background. Like, what was it we were just enjoying besides the beautiful sound?
Well, first of all, sorry if my camera shakes because my cat is insistent on knocking the computer off of this thing that I have it on. But I really just going into this piece, I had the image of just a person in the distance, just standing on the top of the hill, just looking out on
a cat.
Looking out on several cats, obviously. Just looking out on the scenery, on a sunset maybe. And this song is sort of meant to be like people sharing this legend of this person that's standing on the hill. This person who's standing alone. There's nobody with him. You have the wind that's going by. You have just lots and lots of people. They're sharing. They're telling this story of this. This mythical man who's standing on this hill.
Wow. I can, I don't think I even knew that imagery when I conducted the piece, but now that you said it, it makes all the sense in the world. I mean, I think I sensed a bit of where you were coming from and all that, but I feel even more delightfully educated on the piece now. Well, that was 2019, and here we are in 2021. You've graduated. Like, what's next for Mack? What's the world looking like for you? Because I should tell people, I'm going to brag on you a little bit if that's okay, Mack. Not only a gifted composer, instrumentalist, I'm pretty sure you sing as well. I've got that right. Also an author. you probably sculpt and I don't know it. I mean, like you do so many things. Like I know you graduated. I presume you're going on to do, beautiful and great things. But because you and I haven't had the chance to see each other in a couple of years, like tell us what's next in your life.
Well, I'm actually fairly I am very excited for that. I get to write plays for, students to enjoy and maybe find some peace, some safety, or, just enjoying theater productions. I, ironically enough, have been looking into woodworking, which is similar to sculpting. So,
Told you.
um, but yeah, just writing. I plan on writing more music. I've been working actually on sort of an elaboration of the piece that was played today. So look forward to that, I guess.
Oh, wow.
I'm looking into game design, game development, music for gaming. I'm also I plan for my major to be in music education. So I'm not planning on letting go of music or music composition at any point. I'm going to be writing plays and writing the scores for those plays and writing musicals and so on. So, yeah.
Wow. Well, I told y'all there's really little that you don't do, and I'm just so proud of what you've done, and I can't wait to see what's coming up in the world. And you got to keep in touch and let me know everything that's going on with you.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to see you again in a little bit. We're going to keep this musical program rolling along, but so great talking with you, Mack. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And next up, we have this is a really stunning piece. I'm really excited to share it with you. Again, this was part of our Panoramic Voices' 2019-2020 season. That are really our last live season. So while we have some new music for you in just a bit, we are just celebrating the fact that we did a whole lot of new music, premieres, contemporary art in sound, if you will, before COVID decided we weren't going to have a 2020-2021 season. But I've done throughout the years. There's a composer named Mack Felix, and he and I have worked together a whole bunch, and we've toured at least a couple of continents together. One of my nearest and dearest friends, and he has this production that he does each year. Each non-pandemic year, I should say, called Keep Composers Weird. It happens here in Austin, even though he's all over the place and everywhere. He just got back from a festival in Florida, I believe. And he put together this festival. Panoramic Voices had done an album of his second symphony. And so that was part of the event. And part of this event also were a number of composers, young composers, doing some brilliant work. And one of these composers, a young Australian, brilliant composer, I had the opportunity to meet, and her name was Kitty Xiao. And I said, Kitty, we need to work together sometime, and you need to write for Panoramic Voices. So we kept in touch over, I think, probably 4 years or so. And finally, we figured out the right time and place for it. And so Panoramic Voices engaged Kitty to compose a piece for us, which we premiered, this premiere you're about to see, in November 2019. This is Brought Into Morning by Kitty Xiao. Please enjoy. And that was Brought into Mourning by Kitty Xiao, as performed by the Panoramic Voices Orchestra and Chamber Chorus in November 2019. And again, I could talk a lot about this piece. It's a tricky one, and I spent a lot of time with this score, but that would be probably pretty boring for everybody at home. So instead, I'm going to bring in Kitty Xiao. Kitty Xiao is here with us live. How are you, Kitty?
Hi, Brent. It's good to be here. I'm well. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. So good to see you again. Wow. So, you and I have known each other for a little over a half decade, and I've just gotten to enjoy so many different types of pieces that you write. And, I don't honestly know, like, had you written a lot of choral music before this piece?
A few, not too much. Mm-hmm.
Okay. It was, it was certainly challenging, but it was so rewarding, just these sonorities and the way you write for strings. And really what I wanted to dig into a little bit, if I may, is, you brought, I think even before you wrote a note, or I could be wrong there, but you shared with me the poem upon which you based this piece. And I wonder if you could just tell us a little bit about, that poem, the poet, what it was that drew you in and what inspired you to create this beautiful piece for us.
Mm-hmm. Sure. It was funny when you were reflecting how long we've known each other. It has really been that long. And I guess a couple of years after that, I met Jill Jones, who is an Australian poet. So she was doing a poetry reading. I was there. She gave me she signed one of her books, and I was going through her poetry, and she came to one of my concerts, and we had this idea that one day we'll do something together. And so it really fitted quite well together. I worked with her poem of the same name, Brought into Mourning. And I guess for me, the poem for me, it captures a fleeting moment before one kind of sleeps. And it's really, Jill has an extraordinary ability to make really simple moments resonate. And for me, it kind of captures that moment at nighttime when there's a lot of room for reflection, and it's a moment of solitude, and you can almost feel like time is really still. And one of my favorite lines in her poem is, "When being human is not the point." And I think that reflects really beautifully, kind of everyone can relate to that feeling, but Jill just captures it so perfectly. And so with the music, I was really trying to create that sense of stasis as well, that feeling that time is quite afloat. And but then simultaneously, I was trying to create movement in the sound and the color of the words, the choices of words as well. So it's kind of, there's a lot of stillness, but a lot of movement underneath as well that I was trying to work with.
That's fascinating, because that you and I haven't had, we didn't prep really at all for this. And when we were working this piece out, you were living in New York and I was here in Austin. And so it was mostly emails and a couple of phone calls. So these in-depth conversations, weren't necessarily had, but I definitely had the sense, like the image that I had, like totally with you on the simplicity and yet the complexity of the poetry. It almost has like this William Carlos Williams, like just plain stated imagery, but when it's all put together in a collection, it just evokes this really complex universe. And then what you said about the stillness and the stasis and the movement, when you said it just now, but I think it might have been in my mind when I was rehearsing the piece and conducting it, just kind of that, when you see like the sheer surface of a river, say, and it just looks like this placid, completely still entity. And of course, when you step up, you put your foot in the water and you feel movement, and it's like underneath, it's this, it could be torrential. And so I totally feel that. And I'm just kind of putting a lot of things, I'm putting things together in real time now as we're discussing about something that we experienced, at least in the live sense, a couple of years ago. Wow, that's great. And so, and then there's that line about the cat or cats in there, and it made me think of Mack's cat. But
have a cat as a Panoramic Voices mascot or something.
well, the thing is, I meant to bring this up with Mack when we were live, and I wanted to keep the show going, but true story, our very first live broadcast was showing the Dido and Aeneas production that we did back in February 2020. And in the middle of one of those interviews, my cat jumped up on the table and knocked this iPad down on the floor. So so it could be worse. Cats getting all pesky. So you just finished a degree up in so your master's degree in composition.
In composition, at Eastman in Rochester.
Oh, that place. Eastman. For those of you who don't follow the world of educational music institutions, that's like one of the best places you could be. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And what's next for you? What's coming up in your life now?
Well, I guess the pandemic has kind of changed a lot of my plans, but not necessarily in the worst way. I think there's been a lot of time on my hands. So obviously that's every composer's dream, even though at the beginning I didn't know how to deal with it. I've been so used to being driven on being busy, but it's been great because I've had a lot of time to just kind of have fun and like kind of play like a child almost, whether it's video games or gardening or music. So I've been writing for the next ensemble I'm writing for. It's actually a solo piece for Australian National Academy of Music. And then over the summer, I'm going to be doing some residencies to kind of keep my chops fresh, I guess. So yeah, it'll just be residencies and then just continue working with ensembles.
Wow.
And I've got some techno as well. Yep, some techno.
Oh, of course. I love that. I love that we get to peer into your studio here. Wow. Well, fantastic. And I've been a huge fan of your music for about 6 years now, and I just can't wait to see what you wow the world with next.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, yes, thank you. I really do hope we get to work together again sometime. And I'm just throwing this out there. I'm not going to tell any composer what to do, but just the way that you took on Jill's poetry, I think it would be a natural match for you to continue setting her poems, but choral music is obviously something that you can write anything. So I hope that's still something that the opportunities keep coming that way, and I'll be looking for other opportunities to make something happen again, because it was such a treat putting this piece together.
Cool. Thank you so much, Brent.
You're very welcome. Well, the Kitty Xiao, everybody. We're gonna see Kitty again in a little bit here, but we're gonna move on to the fourth and final piece of the program. This is a composer I've known for way too long. This is a piece that I composed. Panoramic Voices commissioned each of these pieces that you've heard on the program earlier. It's performed music of mine during the during my almost a decade and a half tenure artistic directorship, and it's always just a fun group to write for. There's not a lot I can throw at them and kind of shock them as hard as I try. So I'd actually planned to write another work for Panoramic Voices in the summer of 2020 as part of our live season. And of course, the world had very different plans. And Kitty was talking about, how initial reactions to the shutdown of pretty much everything and artists' livelihood, and I mean, even non-artists, so many people have been suffering through this time. And so, that really mirrored much of what I was wrestling with mentally. Having all these concerts I'd planned on doing just suddenly evaporate, and gigs and tours. We were supposed to go to Europe, and that didn't happen. So, I certainly had some time to sit and think with my thoughts, and I certainly tried to make the best use of the time alone to practice all my instruments, and of course to compose a whole lot. So I saw the opportunity to, since we couldn't do a live in-person premiere of mine in the summer of 2020, I got to writing, and during the writing, I was just experiencing so many of the emotions that are hardly unique to me, that pretty much everybody in the world was experiencing. I was watching friends mourn parents who died of COVID. I was watching the news and sometimes just getting really angry about what I interpreted as there could have been a much better response, emergency response to the pandemic, and just seeing some of the best human behavior on display and some of the worst. And so I couldn't help but have some of this come out in the music that I was writing. And so what that all culminated in was a series of pieces called Atmosphera. And the first one of these was commissioned by Awesome Classical Guitar, and that was for Baroque guitar played by myself and electronics. And then the second one, Atmosphera 2, is for solo dancer and pedal steel and electronics. And that was done with my dear friend, Alexa Cabrera, an amazing dancer, one of my favorite movement artists. And then, of course, there was the choral component of this series, the third and final. And in this one, I just found myself kind of shoehorning a lot of different moods into one piece. And as a result, there's just a lot of back and forth. It starts off kind of plaintive. It's based on a pitch set from the oldest complete notated piece called the Epitaph of Sekulos, which is carved on a gravestone from ancient Greece. And it was kind of started off as a memorial, but then just, after witnessing so much despair and terror and anger, some of those things came out too. So it's going to start off kind of pretty, and it's going to go into just all sorts of moods. And you may notice that these moods are frequently bouncing back and forth in a rather hurried fashion. And all of this was written for Panoramic Voices. You're going to hear the Panoramic Voices chamber chorus. My dear friend Katrina Saporsantos is going to be the featured soloist. And I think you're going to be blown away by her work. And last but not least, my dear friends of Arcos Dance, who put together an amazing choreography and video montage that goes with Atmosphera 3. So without further ado, here's my piece, Atmosphera 3. That was Atmosphere 3 by Brent Baldwin, that's me, music, and choreography by Arcos Dance, and of course, Panoramic Voices chamber chorus providing the choral sounds, and then a fantastic performance by Katrina Saporsantos. Speaking of Arcos Dance, you could hear me blab all day about the piece, but I would get as bored as you would. I'd like to know a lot more about what's going on in all that movement in there. And here to tell us all about it is the choreographer of Arcos. Welcome, everybody, Erica Gianfrido.
Hey, everyone. Thanks, Brent. And thanks for having us on this incredible evening. I had no idea I was in for such creative genius. Haven't met these composers in the flesh before, virtual flesh anyway. So thanks for having us here. Man, it was so amazing to see these recorded works pre-pandemic and kind of think about the state that we were all in and the way that we were working and the kinds of things we were imagining a year and a half ago. And I'll say that, the invitation to collaborate with you on this piece was really such a sweet invitation. And I think one that we both entered into with just gratefulness that it was, the opportunity was there. And yeah, when I watch it now, what I see is like a lot of sensitivity and gratitude and respect for our capacity more than anything else. So I'll start by saying that, like, we started talking about this piece in early March, which feels like forever ago. And I started talking with our dancers and we were like, how do we do this again? Like rehearsal schedule, like, are we meeting in person? The time that we rehearsed and shot the footage out in Fredericksburg was sort of like, we went from like pretty strict lockdown rules and wearing masks to like, maybe we're all vaccinated and we could film without masks if we felt safe. So it was this very kind of surreal time. And I think you and I both kind of approached it with just trying to remember and also trying to think of, well, how do we want to do this now? What is our capacity now? What is worth prioritizing? It was a kind of a non-linear process that I think worked out in the end. But that's really what's on my mind is, we were working in a certain mode and we had certain expectations and we didn't try to recreate those when we approached this piece. And that's what I'm kind of most excited about.
Wow. Well, I mean, you always bring a unique approach. I mean, I am not, I don't really dance and I don't understand choreography outside of just my experience of composing for dancers and just watching you all do the amazing stuff that you do. But yeah, I mean, it's always unique. And yet when you showed me the video footage, the raw video footage, the rehearsal footage, I so treasured the, I don't know, just, there's unique is overused by me right now, but just there's a really interesting approach that I see you taking in nearly any production that I've seen you all do. And I mean, that was the reason I wanted you to be a part of this, because I thought, well, I have no idea what to expect really, but I know it's going to be pretty amazing. And I wasn't disappointed. I'm so honored that you said yes to this and that you all, these beautiful dancers, brought all of this amazing energy to it. That Elliot Gray Fisher, other half of Arcos, to the video design. Katrina Saporsantos helped sculpt all those singers together. So another just ridiculously multi-talented human being. So I mean, just yeah, I'm kind of without words because I'm getting to experience this, relatively anew. So I can just and ah. But instead of that, I know some of these dancers, some of these people are my friends, and there's some that I haven't had the pleasure of meeting yet, but I hope to someday, and I hope to get to personally thank everybody. Could you just fill us in on
Yeah.
on credits?
Yeah, absolutely. So these dancers who figured out how to dance again after a year hiatus, and it was such an amazing communal experience that we had together. This was Jennifer Joe, Mackenzie Lawrence, Odalis Salcido, Taryn Lavery, and Rachel Nair, all of whom have been in other Arcos productions, and hopefully many, many more. And our costume design was with a good friend of mine, Laura Gonzalez, who was there on set with us in Fredericksburg for the shoot.
Well, thank you, one and all. Yeah, what an honor. When I started this piece back in the summer of 2020, I really thought, I knew I was going to write a piece with Katrina in mind, and to showcase her incredibly unique talents. And she just took this piece to a whole new place. It almost feels like it's not even my piece anymore. And then after you all had your way with it, it's like, yeah, that's fine. I mean, the music's almost my, fifth favorite part of what's going on in all of that. But I didn't know where this would end up. And yet I'm so incredibly pleased that we ended up getting to work together again and to engage in this learning how to do it all again and to approach in new ways. And you and I mean, people at home may not know this, but you and I have spoken quite a bit in the past 6 months or so. And it just your insights on how we did it before, how we do it moving forward, how we relearn things. Like I take so much away from, on a personal level, from your wisdom and just your warmth and your just beautiful humanity, and all of that, of course, comes to fruition in this beautiful gift of dance that you provided. So thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. And wow, Katrina's I want to choreograph only for Katrina moving forward.
I mean, I think you could. I mean,
she could do
acting like, I don't think there's any. I've had her play Joy Division keyboard parts before. She doesn't, I don't know if she wants to be sharing that, but it's like, hey, you just learn this, and she nails it. Like anything she does, she nails. So I'm just so pleased with her, so pleased with Elliot's work, your work, Katrina's work, the singer's work. I couldn't be more happy right now. Tell us, I hear you have some things coming up. Can you just kind of fill us in on what Arcos has on the horizon?
Yeah, speaking of doing things differently, actually coming up on Saturday, I'll be presenting at the Arts and Change virtual conference hosted by the University of Rochester, doing a kind of a performance research presentation lecture conversation about cyborg pedagogy. That's coming up this Saturday. And then Arcos's fully virtual interactive website performance of In the Ether is going to be presented at the American Dance Festival this summer, which is a huge honor, and we're super excited to be working with students there. And then we'll also be doing that same production, interactive website In the Ether, in a more hybrid with some live component elements here in Austin in mid-August. So we sort of have a busy summer, but we're looking at how to do that differently and how to do that sustainably, and sort of as healing from this time. So we'll be resting inside of that.
Wow. Well, I can't wait to check all of that out. Cyborg pedagogy. Is that what it was? I just like, that's like a band that's opening for Kraftwerk in my head. Like that, I don't even know what that means, but I'm intrigued.
It should be metal bands as part of it. But
oh wow. Okay. Well, I'm gonna look into that, and I'm gonna pick your brain more because I got to know more. Well, we have come to the end of our live broadcast. If this live broadcast or any of the other Panoramic Voices live broadcasts you've seen bring you joy, and you want to support both our virtual productions moving forward, as well as our soon, hopefully, in-person performances, I encourage you to, somewhere down in the comments there will be a donate link, and if you want to support the good works of Panoramic Voices, you may do so. For the time being, I would like to thank all of the singers and instrumentalists who have been part of this production. I'd like to give a special shout out to Kevin Shin, our tech guru for tonight of North Shore Media Productions, for making all this run camera to camera so smoothly. So thank you, Kevin. And Katrina Saporsantos, just for bringing all of that beautiful solo work tonight, and yeah, just for being a light in my life as a general thing. Our beautiful dancers, all of Arcos, and of course our amazing choreographer and composers. I'd love to call you all back to the virtual stage, if I may. Come on back, everybody. Don't leave me here all by myself. Ah, good. Here they all come. Wonderful, wonderful. So I think everybody is clapping at home. And I just want to once again thank you. Thank you to Carlos. Thank you to Erica. Thank you to Kitty. Thank you to Mack for being here live tonight and sharing your insights, and most importantly, sharing your music. And of course, thank you all at home for tuning in for this. We look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, we'll wish you a beautiful night, and you have a good one.